Felicitous greetings, fellow fanatics. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Fanatic, and today we're taking a look at Retro Game Crunch, an NES-inspired compilation by Retro Game Crunch. Yes, the developer and the compilation have the same name. First proposed in 2012, Retro Game Crunch was a Kickstarter project which showcased Super Clew Land, a retro-inspired platformer which they had already produced, along with 6 more games with an NES aesthetic to them, which backers would be able to vote on to influence their development. Eventually, the finished product was brought to Steam in 2014, where anybody could purchase and play all 7 games as a finished product. Going in order of development, let's first take a look at Super Clew Land Complete. Super Clew Land is an adventure platformer in which you'll take on the role of Clew, who starts out as a little blob that can only slither left and right while eating worms. Eat enough of them, and soon he'll grow legs, giving him the ability to jump. The first segment of the game will continue like this as you eventually gain a tail to swim, a horn to break through walls, and finally wings to let you fly for short periods of time. At that point, the game opens up and you'll have to explore to find several gems that are hidden throughout the world, eventually opening the path to a lone boss fight to finish the game. All in all, a solid little platformer title that'll only take about an hour or 2 to go through, and a great introduction to the collection. Next up is End of Line, a puzzle game where you play as a robot trying to self-destruct. A little morbid, but as you go around, there's a number of repair bots you'll have to destroy, otherwise they'll keep rebuilding you. This starts out relatively simple, but you'll soon have to contend with elemental upgrades that will let you deal with water that can be frozen to walk over it, or steel crates which can be melted. You'll also have switches that can open gates, or turn spike traps on and off, lasers with crystals that you can use to bounce them around, and more. You'll also have a dash attack which you can use to destroy other robots. You'll be able to reset a level if you get stuck. There's also these HAL 9000-like terminals. If any repair bots are active, they'll rebuild them. This may not seem like a problem, but if you want the true ending, you'll need to destroy each and every one of them. And if you finish a level after missing one, the game autosaves and won't let you go back to a previous level. This means that if you miss any, you'll need to restart your entire game to get the true ending. It's only about an hour and a half long, and faster once you know what you're doing, so it's not the end of the world, but it's still quite an annoyance as you have to replay everything just for one mistake. Still, it's a clever game with some very unique puzzles that definitely evoked memories of Hitful Cubicle for me. Next, we have GAIAttack, a vertically scrolling beat-em-up platformer. You'll fight some enemies, escape the Rising Death instant floor, and eventually reach an airship where you'll have to do a boss fight. Rinse and repeat for a total of 4 times to win the game. In addition to your standard combo attack, you'll also be able to do a rising kick in midair to give yourself a bit of extra height, as well as collect these coin-like power-ups which will allow you to create an elemental wave to attack multiple foes at once. As the levels go on, you'll face a wider variety of enemies with different abilities, but there's really not that much to go into here. It really is that simple. You also have the option of playing local co-op with up to 4 players, if that's your cup of tea. Just make sure you have controllers then, the keyboard will be quite crowded if you attempt it that way. A bit repetitive, but it'll only take about half an hour to an hour to beat it, so it doesn't overstay its welcome. Rounding things out at the halfway point is Paradox Lost, a time-traveling Metroidvania where you'll have to traverse different time periods to rescue captives, all while constantly upgrading your equipment. You'll gain access to a few different kinds of weapons, as well as gaining new abilities like a double jump and a slide kick. I'm a bit of a sucker for Metroidvanias, and this is probably my favorite game of the bunch. That being said, it is on the easy side, as there really aren't that many enemies. While exploration is the key element that defines Metroidvanias, combat is still a major part. With only 2 boss fights and a handful of repetitive enemy types, it leaves me wishing they would have done more with the concept. Still enjoyable, and definitely a lot of fun to try and figure out how to rescue everyone, but at the same time, it leaves me craving more. Next in line is Wub-Wub Wescue, a puzzle platformer that takes clear inspiration from Donkey Kong. In such, you'll take on the role of a pug trying to rescue its owner. In addition to jumping, you can also climb up and down ladders, as well as learn songs from phonographs. Yellow albums will slow the stage's tempo, green vinyls will put snakes to sleep, blue ones will tame bats so you can ride them, and finally brown ones will cause monkeys to help you out by throwing you. Each level is only a single screen, where you'll have to figure out how to get through various obstacles in order to get to your owner. The game finishes itself up with a single boss fight, and again takes about an hour to finish. Movement is a little stiff, though considering the source material that inspired it, this is to be expected. Despite the simplicity of the controls, it's a solidly enjoyable game. The penultimate game on our list is Brains and Hearts, a card game where you'll take the role of either Albert Einstein or a robot. You'll each have a deck of 14 cards, 2 copies each of the numbers 2 through 7, plus 2 wormhole cards, which simultaneously count as 1 and 8, allowing the numbers to loop around if necessary. Players then go back and forth playing cards, either trying to complete sets of 3 cards of the same value, or trying to make runs of 3 or longer. The first card in a run or set must come from your side, but at least 1 card must come from your opponent's. Any cards you use of your opponents are removed from the board and scored when you create a run or set with them. When you first play a card, you have the option of locking it. If it comes into play locked, it can't be used until the start of your next turn, but readies it for future use. Finally, twice per game, a player may forego their turn to roll this modifier die, which will allow them to change the value of a card depending on how it lands. As someone who regularly reviews tabletop games, maybe my expectations are just too high. But personally, I found this to be the worst game in the collection by far. I just can't get into it at all. Finally, we come to Shūten, a shmup taking place in a mythologized version of the Sengoku. That reminds me, I need to take a look at the Onimusha games one of these days. This thing is actually a PS2 controller, believe it or not. In Shūten, you'll take on the role of a Wari, whose village has been invaded by yokai. Armed with a mystical katana, you'll be able to destroy enemies to take their weapons, giving you access to a wide variety of attacks. Kunai will shoot straight forward, shuriken are weak but will spread out to hit many targets at once, arrows home in on your opponents, pinwheel shuriken return to you like boomerangs and hit any enemies in their path. Flails spin around you and fly out when released, and finally, bombs deal heavy area damage but have a delayed response. At the end of each level, you'll fight a giant boss monster, each of which has their own patterns to overcome. As you slay monsters, they'll drop gold for you to pick up. Win or lose a stage, you'll still get to keep any gold you collect, which can then be spent on upgrades in the shop. This includes defensive upgrades, such as a helmet and a shield, which will protect you from damage 1 time each. Offensive upgrades, which increase the abilities of each weapon up to 3 levels in total, or even banners, which you must choose only 1 to bring into battle, each with their own unique effects. The game feels a bit longer than the others. It clocked in a little over 2 hours for me, but that might be because I did some grinding to get all my weapons to level 3. A very enjoyable experience overall, and definitely one of the stronger games in the collection. Seeing as this is a compilation title, and you'll either get all of them as you purchase the collection, or nothing as you pass on it entirely, I'm going to give the compilation a single review score. In conclusion, Retro Game Crunch does an excellent job of capturing the feel and essence of the NES era. Most games do have a save option to keep track of your progress despite their relative brevity, but nonetheless, most of them do feel reminiscent of that bygone era of gaming. While they do vary in quality and length, I do find it to be a very solid collection overall, with a number of fun time killers. Are any of them masterpieces? No, but I wouldn't regret going back and replaying and enjoying them once again, with the possible exception of Brains and Hearts. That one was sorely disappointing. In the end, I find Retro Game Crunch to be worthy of a respectable 8.2 out of 10. Retro Game Crunch is available for PC via Steam. If you're interested in purchasing or learning more, links are included in the description. But what about you? What do you think of Retro Game Crunch? What compilation titles do you enjoy? If you have any questions, remarks, or opposing points of view, leave them in the comments down below. Please remember to like, share, subscribe, and ring that bell. Until next time, farewell, fellow fanatics. Thank you again for watching. I have plenty more to share with you if you're interested. You can click up here above my head to subscribe to my channel. You can click over here on my monitor to see the most recent video that I've worked on. Or if you prefer, you can click up here to open this mysterious vault and see what video that the YouTube algorithm has picked just for you.